The small boy with sandy hair pressed his nose against the car window as the royal convoy made its way through the bustling streets of London. 4-year-old Prince William Arthur Philip Louis was experiencing his first major public outing, and the world was watching with fascination as the future King of England displayed the kind of innocent curiosity that melted hearts across the nation. It was a crisp autumn morning in 1986 when Princess Diana decided to take her eldest son on what would become one of the most memorable royal outings in recent history. The destination was a local nursery school, where William would spend his morning playing with children his own age, away from the formal protocols of palace life. Diana had insisted on this normal childhood experience, despite the concerns of royal advisors who worried about security and propriety. As the car pulled up to the modest building, photographers gathered behind barriers, their cameras ready to capture every moment of this rare glimpse into the private life of the royal family. Diana stepped out first, her blonde hair catching the morning light, followed by a slightly hesitant William, who clutched his mother's hand tightly. The little prince wore a simple red sweater and dark trousers, looking remarkably ordinary despite his extraordinary circumstances. The moment that would be remembered for decades occurred just as they reached the entrance of the nursery. A small girl with pigtails had dropped her favorite doll on the pavement, and it had rolled toward the royal party. Without any prompting from his mother or the security detail, William immediately let go of Diana's hand and toddled over to retrieve the toy. His chubby little fingers wrapped around the doll, and he carefully brushed off the dirt before walking back to the girl and offering it to her with a shy smile. The photographers captured the exact moment when the little girl's face lit up with delight, and William's own expression of pure satisfaction at having helped someone in need. Diana watched from nearby, her eyes sparkling with pride and amusement as her son demonstrated the kind of natural kindness that she had been nurturing in him since birth. The image would later grace the front pages of newspapers around the world, with headlines proclaiming the emergence of a truly compassionate future monarch. Inside the nursery, William's adventures continued in ways that endeared him to both the staff and the other children. When the group gathered for story time, he insisted on sitting on the floor with everyone else rather than accepting the special chair that had been prepared for him. During the reading of a book about farm animals, William's enthusiasm bubbled over when the teacher made animal sounds. His attempts to moo like a cow were so earnest and adorable that even the usually serious royal protection officers couldn't suppress their smiles. The morning's activities included finger painting, and it was here that William truly came into his own. While other children carefully dabbed their brushes in single colors, William embraced the creative process with unbridled enthusiasm. His small hands became covered in blue, red, and yellow paint as he created what he proudly announced was a picture of his family's corgi dogs. The result was a chaotic masterpiece that bore little resemblance to any recognizable animal, but his beaming pride in his creation was absolutely infectious. When it came time for snack time, William demonstrated another endearing trait that would characterize him throughout his childhood. Despite having access to the finest cuisine at Buckingham Palace, he was thrilled to discover fish fingers and chips on the nursery menu. He ate with gusto, completely forgetting about royal table manners as he used his fingers to pick up the crispy potato pieces. Diana made no effort to correct him, understanding that these moments of normal childhood behavior were precious and rare. The most touching moment of the morning occurred during outdoor playtime. A little boy named Tommy had been sitting alone on a bench, too shy to join the other children who were playing on the climbing frame. William noticed Tommy's isolation and, with the natural empathy that would serve him well in his future role, walked over and simply said, "Do you want to play with me?" The two boys spent the next 20 minutes building an elaborate sandcastle, with William patiently teaching Tommy the techniques he had learned during family holidays at Balmoral. As the morning drew to a close, William's reluctance to leave was obvious to everyone present. He had found genuine joy in the simple pleasures of childhood friendship and play, experiences that were all too rare in his highly structured royal existence. When Diana gently reminded him that it was time to go, William's bottom lip trembled slightly, and he asked in a small voice if he could come back tomorrow. Diana knelt down to his level and promised that they would find more opportunities for such adventures, a promise that she would keep throughout his childhood. The walk back to the royal car provided one final moment of pure charm. William had made friends with a small tabby cat that belonged to the nursery, and the cat had decided to follow the royal party to their vehicle. Security personnel weren't quite sure how to handle this unexpected addition to their carefully planned exit strategy, but William solved the problem in his own innocent way. He sat down on the pavement and spent several minutes gently petting the cat while explaining in his earnest 4-year-old voice that the cat needed to stay at the nursery to take care of all the children. As the royal convoy finally pulled away, William pressed his face against the rear window, waving enthusiastically at the small crowd of children and staff who had gathered to see him off. His paint-stained fingers left small smudges on the car window, physical evidence of a morning that had been perfectly imperfect. Diana later remarked to friends that she had never seen William so happy and relaxed, and the experience reinforced her determination to give both her sons as normal a childhood as possible within the constraints of their royal duties. That evening, back at Kensington Palace, William insisted on showing his father the finger painting he had created at the nursery. Prince Charles examined the colorful blob with the seriousness of an art critic, asking detailed questions about William's artistic choices and praising the bold use of color. William's excitement as he explained every splash and smear on the paper was so genuine and infectious that even a usually reserved Prince Charles found himself laughing along with his son's animated description. The day had provided the public with their first real glimpse of William's personality beyond the formal royal appearances and official photographs. Here was a child who was naturally kind, genuinely curious, and refreshingly normal despite his extraordinary circumstances. The images and stories from that nursery visit would be treasured by royal watchers for years to come, marking the beginning of the public's love affair with a little boy who would one day be king. The grand ballroom of Buckingham Palace had been transformed into something resembling a child's dream playground. Colorful balloons bobbed from every corner. An enormous birthday cake shaped like a castle dominated one table, and the sound of children's laughter echoed off the ornate walls. It was Prince William's 8th birthday party, and for once, protocol had been set aside in favor of pure childhood joy. Diana had fought hard for this celebration to be different from the usual formal royal gatherings. She wanted William to experience the kind of birthday party that any other 8-year-old might have, complete with party games, silly activities, and friend from school rather than just the children of foreign dignitaries. The Queen had initially raised her eyebrows at some of Diana's more unconventional suggestions, but even she had to admit that the resulting celebration was bringing out a side of William that was rarely seen in public. The guest list included 20 of William's classmates from Ludgrove Preparatory School, a mix of children who knew him simply as William rather than Your Royal Highness. Among them was his best friend James, a freckle-faced boy who shared William's love of adventure stories and had absolutely no interest in royal protocols. James had arrived at the palace with the same wide-eyed wonder as the other children, but within minutes of the party starting, he and William were plotting some elaborate game that involved the ornate furniture as fortifications in an imaginary battle. The afternoon's entertainment began with a professional magician who had been specifically instructed to treat the birthday boy like any other child in the audience. William's reaction to each magic trick was pure delight, his eyes growing wide with amazement when the magician made a white rabbit appear from his top hat. When the performer asked for a volunteer, William's hand shot up immediately, and he bounded onto the makeshift stage with the kind of enthusiasm that made all the adults in the room smile. The magic trick required William to hold a colorful silk scarf while the magician performed his illusion. But something went wonderfully wrong when William, in his eagerness to help, accidentally dropped the scarf at the crucial moment. Instead of the planned magical transformation, the scarf simply fluttered to the floor, leaving both the magician and the audience in surprised silence. William's face turned bright red, and for a moment it seemed like the 8-year-old might burst into tears of embarrassment. But then something magical did happen, though it had nothing to do with the professional entertainer's skills. William looked at the fallen scarf, then at the confused magician, and suddenly burst into the kind of infectious giggling that only children can produce. His laughter was so genuine and joyful that it immediately spread to every other child in the room, and soon even the adults were chuckling along. The magician, quick to recognize a perfect moment when he saw one, proclaimed that William had just performed the greatest magic trick of all by turning a mistake into pure happiness. The party games that followed showcased William's competitive spirit and his natural leadership abilities, but also revealed his fundamental fairness and kindness toward others. During a game of musical chairs, William noticed that his friend Sarah, a quiet girl from his class who was smaller than the other children, was having trouble competing for the remaining seats. Without drawing attention to what he was doing, William made sure to position himself in such a way that Sarah could easily claim a chair when the music stopped. When she realized what he had done, her grateful smile was worth more to William than winning the game himself. The treasure hunt that Diana had organized throughout the palace corridors proved to be the highlight of the afternoon. William had helped plan the clues, drawing simple pictures and maps that would lead his friends through some of the most historic rooms in the building. His excitement as he watched his classmates solve each puzzle was even greater than their own, and he couldn't resist offering helpful hints when someone seemed stuck. His whispered suggestions of look behind the big painting or check under the fancy table demonstrated his desire for everyone to succeed rather than his need to show off his superior knowledge of the palace layout. The treasure hunt led to a moment that would be remembered by everyone present for years to come. The final clue directed the children to the palace gardens, where they discovered not the expected box of chocolates or small toys, but rather a collection of baby ducklings that had apparently wandered away from the palace pond. William's immediate concern for the lost ducklings overshadowed any disappointment about the missing treasure. He carefully gathered the fluffy yellow babies in his arms, speaking to them in the kind of gentle, soothing voice that seemed to calm their distressed peeping. Diana watched from nearby as William organized his friends into a rescue mission to return the ducklings to their mother. The sight of 8-year-old William, still wearing his party crown, leading a procession of well-dressed children across the palace grounds while carrying baby ducks was both hilarious and heartwarming. His serious concentration on the important task at hand, combined with his obvious delight in the soft warmth of the creatures in his arms, created a perfect picture of childhood innocence and natural compassion. When they finally located the mother duck near the pond, William's careful placement of each baby back with its family was done with the kind of gentle reverence usually reserved for much more formal royal ceremonies. He knelt by the water's edge, his party clothes getting muddy, as he made sure each duckling was safely reunited with its parent. The satisfied expression on his face when the duck family swam away together was absolutely radiant, and several of the adults present later remarked that they had never seen him look happier. The birthday cake ceremony provided another delightful surprise when William's attempt to blow out all 8 candles resulted in a spectacular failure. Despite his best efforts, 3 candles stubbornly remained lit, flickering defiantly in the palace ballroom. Instead of being frustrated by this setback, William saw it as an opportunity for teamwork. He invited his friends to help him blow out the remaining candles, turning what could have been a disappointing moment into a group celebration. The resulting cheer when the last flame was finally extinguished was loud enough to echo through the palace corridors. As the party began to wind down, William demonstrated the kind of thoughtfulness that would characterize him throughout his life. He had personally selected small gifts for each of his guests, not expensive items that would emphasize the difference in their circumstances, but simple things that reflected his knowledge of each friend's interests. For James, he had chosen a book about knights and castles. For Sarah, a small stuffed animal that reminded him of her beloved pet cat. Each gift came with a handwritten note in William's careful 8-year-old handwriting, thanking each friend for making his birthday special. The most touching moment of the afternoon occurred during the gift opening, when William received a hand-drawn picture from his friend Tommy, the same shy boy he had befriended at the nursery years earlier. The drawing showed two stick figures playing together under a bright yellow sun, with "Happy Birthday, William" written in crayon across the top. William's reaction to this simple, heartfelt gift was more enthusiastic than his response to any of the expensive presents he had received from various dignitaries and family members. He immediately announced that Tommy's picture would be displayed in his bedroom at Kensington Palace, a promise that Diana made sure was kept. As the last guest departed and the palace staff began cleaning up the remnants of the celebration, William could be found sitting quietly in the corner of the ballroom, still wearing his party crown and carefully examining each of the handmade cards his friends had given him. Diana sat beside him, and together they relived the afternoon's highlights, with William providing animated commentary about each game, each surprise, and each moment of shared joy with his friends. That evening, as Diana tucked William into bed, he declared it the best birthday he had ever had. When she asked him why, his answer revealed the depth of his understanding about what truly mattered in life. He explained that it wasn't the fancy decorations or expensive gifts that had made the day special, but rather the fact that his friends had been genuinely happy to celebrate with him. His ability to recognize and value authentic friendship over material luxury at such a young age provided a glimpse into the kind of man he would eventually become. The ancient corridors of Eton College echoed with the sound of running footsteps as 16-year-old Prince William raced through the hallways, his school tie askew and his usually perfectly styled hair disheveled from his sprint across campus. He was late for his history of art class, not because he had overslept or forgotten about his responsibilities, but because he had stopped to help a younger student who had dropped all his books in the courtyard. This small act of kindness, witnessed by several classmates, perfectly captured the essence of who William had become during his time at the prestigious boarding school. William's arrival at Eton had been met with significant media attention and speculation about how the future king would adapt to life among his peers. Many expected him to demand special treatment or to struggle with the relatively normal routine of boarding school life. Instead, William embraced the experience with a mixture of nervous excitement and genuine eagerness to prove himself on his own merits rather than his royal status. His first few weeks at the school revealed a young man who was determined to be known for his character rather than his title. The moment that truly endeared William to his fellow students occurred during his second week at Eton, during what was meant to be a routine soccer practice. William had always been athletic and competitive, traits that serve him well in the informal games that took place during free time. However, during this particular practice, he encountered a situation that would test his character in ways that no amount of royal training could have prepared him for. The school star athlete, a boy named Marcus who was known for his skill on the field and his somewhat arrogant attitude off it, had been making life difficult for a new student named Peter who was clearly struggling to fit in. Marcus had been deliberately passing the ball away from Peter during practice, making loud comments about Peter's coordination and generally ensuring that the younger boy felt excluded from the team dynamic. William watched this behavior for several minutes, his jaw tightening with each cruel comment and deliberate slight. When Marcus made a particularly nasty remark about Peter's shoes being too cheap for a proper school, William had finally heard enough. Instead of using his royal status to simply order Marcus to stop, William chose a more subtle but ultimately more effective approach. During the next play, William deliberately passed the ball to Peter and shouted encouragement when the nervous boy managed to make a decent kick toward the goal. When Marcus tried to intercept and make another disparaging comment, William smoothly stepped between them and began asking Peter about his hometown, effectively including him in the conversation while simultaneously freezing out the bully. William's natural charisma and genuine interest in Peter's responses soon attracted other players to the conversation, and within minutes, Marcus found himself isolated while Peter was welcomed into the group. The transformation was remarkable to witness. Peter, who had been shrinking with embarrassment just moments before, began to stand straighter and speak with more confidence as William continued to ask him questions about his interests and background. When Peter mentioned that he played piano, William's face lit up with genuine interest, and he began describing his own struggles with learning various instruments at the insistence of his tutors. The conversation revealed William's ability to find common ground with virtually anyone, a skill that would serve him well in his future royal duties. What happened next became legendary among the Eton students who witnessed it. During the final scrimmage of practice, Peter managed to score a goal, his first successful play since arriving at the school. William's reaction was pure joy, as if his own best friend had achieved something momentous. He ran across the field and lifted Peter off his feet in a bear hug, spinning him around while shouting congratulations. The image of the future king celebrating another student's small victory with such genuine enthusiasm was both heartwarming and inspiring to everyone present. William's academic life at Eton provided numerous opportunities to display his quick wit and natural charm, particularly in his favorite subject of history of art. During one memorable class discussion about Renaissance painting techniques, William found himself in a friendly debate with his professor about the influence of patronage on artistic expression. The conversation grew increasingly animated as William argued that artists of the period were more independent than commonly believed, citing specific examples and displaying a knowledge that impressed both his teacher and his classmates. However, the most endearing moment occurred when William realized that he had been gesticulating so enthusiastically during his argument that he had accidentally knocked over a small reproduction of a Michelangelo sculpture that sat on the professor's desk. The ceramic piece shattered on the classroom floor, creating a moment of horrified silence as everyone stared at the broken artwork. William's face went through a fascinating series of expressions, from shock to embarrassment to genuine remorse, before he began frantically trying to gather the pieces while apologizing profusely to his professor. The teacher, Professor Matthews, was known for his stern demeanor and strict classroom policies, and the students held their breath waiting for his reaction to this disaster. Instead, Professor Matthews began to chuckle, then laugh outright at the sight of the future king of England crawling around on the classroom floor, trying to reassemble a broken sculpture. He gently explained to William that the piece was just an inexpensive reproduction, but he was touched by William's obvious distress at having damaged something that belonged to someone else. William's relief was immediately followed by his insistence that he would replace the sculpture, despite Professor Matthews' assurances that it wasn't necessary. Over the following weeks, William could be seen researching art supply catalogs and visiting local shops in his spare time, determined to find an exact replacement. When he finally presented Professor Matthews with not one, but 3 different versions of the same sculpture, explaining that he wanted to make sure at least one was suitable, the gesture was so thoughtful and excessive that it became a favorite story among the Eton faculty. The dormitory life at Eton revealed another side of William's character that delighted both his roommates and the house staff. Despite having grown up in palaces with servants attending to his every need, William approached the shared living experience with enthusiasm and a determination to pull his own weight. His attempts at doing his own laundry resulted in several colorful disasters, including the famous incident when he accidentally turned all his white shirts pink after including a new red sock in the wash. Instead of being embarrassed by the mistake, William wore his pink shirts with pride, claiming they were a new fashion statement and inspiring several other students to deliberately dye their own shirts in solidarity. William's natural leadership abilities emerged during his time as captain of the house soccer team, but it was his approach to leadership that set him apart from other student leaders. When the team was struggling with poor performance and low morale, William didn't resort to harsh criticism or authoritarian demands. Instead, he organized informal team-building activities, including midnight pizza parties in the dormitory common room and impromptu soccer matches against teams made up of faculty members. His ability to maintain team discipline while also fostering genuine camaraderie earned him the respect and loyalty of players who might have rebelled against a more traditional leadership style. One of the most touching incidents of William's Eton years occurred during the annual charity fundraising event, when each house was challenged to raise money for local causes. William's house had decided to organize a talent show, and students were encouraged to showcase any special skills or abilities they might have. When the shy Peter, who had become one of William's closest friends, expressed interest in performing a piano piece but was too nervous to play in front of the entire school, William came up with a characteristically thoughtful solution. Instead of simply encouraging Peter to overcome his fear, William suggested that they perform a duet together, with William attempting to play a simple harmony on a second piano while Peter handled the more complex melody. William's musical skills were adequate at best, and he spent hours practicing his simple part to ensure he wouldn't embarrass his friend during the performance. The night of the talent show, when the two boys took the stage together, William's obvious nervousness was almost as endearing as Peter's. When William made a small mistake during the performance, he caught Peter's eye and gave him such an encouraging smile that Peter's confidence soared, and he finished the piece beautifully. The applause that followed their performance was enthusiastic, but what touched everyone present was the genuine pride and affection visible between the two friends as they took their bows. William's willingness to risk his own reputation to support a friend, combined with his obvious joy in Peter's success, demonstrated a level of loyalty and kindness that impressed students and faculty alike. The incident became part of Eton folklore, often cited as an example of the kind of character and leadership that the school hoped to instill in all its students. As William's time at Eton drew to a close, the transformation from the uncertain 16-year-old who had arrived at the school to the confident young man preparing for university was remarkable. He had learned to navigate the complex social dynamics of boarding school life while maintaining his natural warmth and genuine concern for others. His experiences at Eton had provided him with friendships that would last a lifetime and had given him the confidence to face the challenges that lay ahead in his role as future monarch. The ancient stone walls of St. Andrew's University had witnessed centuries of academic pursuit, but few moments in the institution's long history could match the charm of watching Prince William struggle with a washing machine in the basement laundry room of his student accommodation. It was his third week at university, and the 20-year-old future king was discovering that royal training had not included practical lessons in domestic life. His attempt to wash a single load of clothes had somehow resulted in soap suds overflowing across the floor, and his expression of bewildered frustration was absolutely endearing to his flatmate Kate Middleton, who had arrived to find him standing ankle-deep in bubbles. William's decision to attend St. Andrew's University had been met with intense media speculation, but his desire for a relatively normal university experience was genuine. He had specifically requested accommodation that would allow him to live alongside other students rather than in special quarters befitting his royal status. The result was a shared flat with 3 other students, including Kate, who would later become much more significant in his life than either of them could have imagined during those early days of friendship and shared domestic disasters. The laundry incident became legendary among their small circle of friends, not just because of the visual comedy of a prince surrounded by soap bubbles, but because of William's reaction when Kate offered to help. Instead of accepting assistance with royal graciousness or being embarrassed by his obvious incompetence, William burst into laughter and declared that he was clearly not ready for independent living. His ability to laugh at himself, combined with his immediate invitation for Kate to teach him the proper technique, revealed a humility and openness that had nothing to do with royal protocol and everything to do with his natural character. Their friendship developed through a series of small, everyday moments that highlighted William's genuine personality beneath his royal upbringing. During their first month as flatmates, William discovered that Kate was struggling financially to keep up with the social activities that seemed effortless for many of their wealthier classmates. Rather than offering direct financial assistance, which would have been awkward and potentially patronizing, William began suggesting activities that were either free or inexpensive. His proposals for picnics in the university gardens, long walks along the Scottish coast, or movie nights in their flat were presented as his personal preferences rather than accommodations to Kate's budget, preserving her dignity while ensuring she never felt excluded. One particular evening demonstrated William's thoughtfulness in ways that had nothing to do with his royal training and everything to do with his natural empathy. Kate had received disappointing news about a family situation back home and was clearly upset, though she was trying to hide her distress from her flatmates. William noticed her subdued mood during dinner and, without making a big production of it, suggested that they take a walk to clear their heads. During their stroll through the historic streets of St. Andrews, he shared stories about his own struggles with homesickness and family pressures, creating a safe space for Kate to express her own concerns. What made the conversation particularly touching was William's complete lack of self-importance despite the magnitude of the pressures he faced as future king. He spoke about missing his family and feeling overwhelmed by academic expectations with the same genuine vulnerability that any other 20-year-old might display. His ability to make Kate feel that her problems were valid and important, rather than insignificant compared to his royal responsibilities, demonstrated a level of emotional intelligence that couldn't be taught through any amount of formal education. The academic side of university life provided numerous opportunities for William to display his quick wit and intellectual curiosity, particularly in his chosen field of art history. During one memorable seminar discussion about the cultural significance of medieval tapestries, William found himself passionately defending the artistic merit of decorative arts against classmates who argued that such works were merely functional rather than truly artistic. His argument was well-researched and thoughtfully presented, but what made the moment particularly endearing was his obvious excitement about the subject matter. As William warmed to his topic, his formal presentation style gave way to genuine enthusiasm, and he began gesticulating expressively while describing the intricate symbolism woven into medieval tapestries. His professor later remarked that watching William discover his passion for art history was like watching a flower bloom, as his natural intelligence and curiosity were freed from the constraints of royal protocol. When a classmate challenged one of his points, William's response was not the defensive reaction one might expect from someone accustomed to deference, but rather genuine delight at having found someone willing to engage in serious intellectual debate. The social dynamics of university life presented William with challenges he had never faced before, particularly in navigating relationships with classmates who were uncertain about how to interact with someone of his status. His solution to this problem was characteristically straightforward and charming. During the first major social event of the semester, an informal gathering in one of the dormitory common rooms, William arrived wearing jeans and a casual sweater rather than the more formal attire that many had expected. When someone nervously asked how they should address him, William's immediate response was to suggest they call him by his first name and to please not treat him any differently than they would any other student. To prove his point, William immediately joined a group of students who were engaged in a heated debate about football, and within minutes he was arguing as passionately as anyone else about team strategies and player statistics. His knowledge of the sport was impressive, but more importantly, his willingness to be completely wrong about a particular point and to accept correction with good humor demonstrated that he was genuinely interested in being treated as an equal rather than being constantly deferred to. One of the most endearing aspects of William's university experience was his relationship with his personal protection officers, who had to maintain his security while allowing him the freedom to live a relatively normal student life. William's solution to the awkwardness of having bodyguards shadow his every move was to treat them as part of his extended social circle rather than invisible servants. He regularly invited them to join study groups or casual meals, and his genuine interest in their lives and families created relationships that went far beyond professional duty. This approach led to some amusing situations, such as the time when one of his protection officers, who had mentioned being a chess enthusiast, found himself recruited to teach William and several classmates the finer points of chess strategy during what was supposed to be a security briefing. William's competitive nature emerged during these chess lessons, and his determination to master the game was both admirable and slightly comical. His tendency to narrate his thought process out loud while considering his moves provided entertainment for everyone present and revealed his methodical approach to problem solving. The most significant development of William's university years was the gradual evolution of his friendship with Kate from casual flatmates to something deeper and more meaningful. The transition was so natural and gradual that neither of them seemed fully aware of it happening. Their shared experiences, from domestic disasters to academic triumphs, had created a foundation of mutual respect and genuine affection that transcended the vast differences in their backgrounds and future expectations. One evening that would later be remembered as particularly significant occurred during their final semester, when William and Kate found themselves alone in their flat while their other flatmates were away for the weekend. They had planned to spend the evening studying for upcoming exams, but a power outage forced them to abandon their books and find alternative entertainment. William had suggested they light candles and tell stories to pass the time, and their conversation gradually shifted from amusing anecdotes to more personal revelations about their hopes, fears, and dreams for the future. What made the evening special wasn't any dramatic declaration of feelings, but rather the comfortable intimacy of two people who had come to know and trust each other completely. William's ability to discuss his anxieties about his future role as king with someone who listened without judgment or advice was something he had rarely experienced. Similarly, Kate's willingness to share her own uncertainties about her career aspirations and family expectations demonstrated the depth of trust that had developed between them. As their university years drew to a close, William reflected on how profoundly the experience had changed him. The young man who had arrived at St. Andrews with the weight of royal expectations and the uncertainty of how to navigate normal social relationships was graduating with confidence in his own abilities and, perhaps most importantly, with genuine friendships that had been built on mutual respect rather than his royal status. His time at university had given him something that no amount of royal training could provide: the knowledge that he was valued for who he was as a person rather than what he represented as a royal. The graduation ceremony itself provided one final moment of characteristic charm when William's mortarboard fell off during the recessional, and he had to break formation to retrieve it while trying to maintain his dignity in front of the assembled dignitaries and family members. His quick grin and slight shrug as he repositioned the cap demonstrated that he had learned to navigate the balance between royal protocol and human naturalness that would serve him well in all his future endeavors. The morning mist hung low over the grounds of Kensington Palace as Prince William attempted to chase his energetic 2-year-old son, Prince George, around the carefully manicured gardens. At 31, William had discovered that royal training had not adequately prepared him for the exhausting reality of keeping up with a determined toddler who seemed to have inherited both his father's stubbornness and his grandmother Diana's adventurous spirit. George had escaped from his planned morning walk and was now leading his father on a merry chase through flower beds and around ornamental fountains, giggling with pure delight at his newfound game of royal tag. The transformation of Prince William from university student to devoted father had been remarkable to witness. The same young man who had once struggled with washing machines and domestic responsibilities now approached parenthood with a mixture of hands-on enthusiasm and endearing uncertainty that made him utterly relatable to parents everywhere. His determination to be actively involved in his children's daily care, despite having access to an army of nannies and support staff, revealed his commitment to providing his children with the kind of engaged parenting he had cherished from his own mother. Catherine, now the Duchess of Cambridge, watched from the palace windows as her husband finally managed to scoop up their giggling son, spinning George around in circles while both father and son dissolved into laughter. The sight of William in his casual weekend clothes, his hair disheveled from the chase, and his expensive shoes muddy from the garden pursuit, was a perfect illustration of how thoroughly fatherhood had changed his priorities and perspective. His obvious joy in these simple moments with his son was both touching and inspiring to observe. The public's first glimpse of William's parenting style had occurred during George's debut appearance on the hospital steps following his birth. While protocol dictated a brief, formal presentation of a new heir to the throne, William's behavior throughout the experience revealed his deep protectiveness and natural paternal instincts. His careful attention to ensuring that Catherine was comfortable, his gentle handling of his newborn son, and his obvious pride, mixed with nervous excitement, created a moment that resonated with new parents everywhere. What particularly endeared William to the public during this historic moment was his completely human reaction to the bank of photographers and reporters assembled to capture the first images of the future king. When George began crying during the photo session, William's immediate response was not to maintain royal composure for the cameras, but to gently bounce his son while making soft shushing sounds, completely ignoring the clicking cameras as he focused entirely on comforting his child. His whispered words of reassurance to George, barely audible to the assembled media, demonstrated that his role as father took priority over his royal duties. The early months of George's life provided numerous opportunities for William to display his developing parenting skills, often with charmingly imperfect results. His first attempts at changing diapers, conducted under the amused supervision of Catherine and experienced palace staff, resulted in several comedic disasters that became family legend. His tendency to use far too much baby powder, his confusion about which way the diaper was supposed to face, and his elaborate system of laying out supplies like a surgical procedure all revealed his methodical approach to mastering this essential parenting skill. William's relationship with sleep deprivation during George's infancy became a source of good-natured humor among his friends and family. Despite having access to night nannies, William insisted on taking a share of nighttime feeding duties, leading to several amusing incidents during daytime royal engagements. His tendency to nod off during lengthy ceremonial events was captured by photographers and became endearing evidence of his hands-on approach to fatherhood. When questioned by reporters about his obvious exhaustion, William's honest admission that parenthood was harder than any military training resonated with exhausted parents everywhere. The development of George's personality provided endless delight for William, who approached each new milestone with the enthusiasm of a first-time parent combined with the wonder of someone discovering aspects of his own childhood through his son's eyes. George's first steps, taken in the garden of Kensington Palace, while William cheered encouragement from nearby, were captured on Catherine's camera and later shared as one of the most natural and joyful royal photographs ever released. William's expression in those images, pure pride mixed with amazement, revealed the depth of his emotional connection to his son. William's commitment to normalizing his children's experiences despite their extraordinary circumstances became evident in countless small ways. His insistence on doing the school run himself, despite security concerns and public attention, demonstrated his determination to be present for the routine aspects of his children's lives. Photographs of William arriving at nursery school with George, both of them wearing matching casual clothes and carrying the typical paraphernalia of parent and toddler, showed a side of royal life that felt refreshingly ordinary. The arrival of Princess Charlotte brought new challenges and joys that further showcased William's evolving parenting style. His gentle handling of his infant daughter, combined with his patient management of George's adjustment to being a big brother, revealed his natural ability to balance the different needs of multiple children. The famous photograph of William leaving the hospital with 2-year-old George, while Catherine carried newborn Charlotte, captured a moment of family transition that was both historically significant and personally touching. William's approach to discipline with his children became a subject of fascination for royal watchers who were accustomed to more formal methods of child-rearing within the royal family. His preference for gentle redirection rather than authoritarian commands was evident during public appearances where George occasionally displayed typical toddler behavior. When George became restless during formal events, William's response was to engage his son with whispered stories or simple games rather than demanding immediate compliance with royal protocol. One particularly endearing incident occurred during a family holiday when 3-year-old George decided to explore the beach by collecting every interesting shell and pebble he could find. William spent the entire afternoon following his son around the shoreline, carrying an increasingly heavy bucket of George's treasures while maintaining an expression of serious concentration that matched his son's intense focus on the collection task. Photographs of this beach expedition, showing William crouched beside George as they examined various shells, captured the patient attention that characterizes his parenting approach. The birth of Prince Louis added another dimension to William's fatherhood journey, as he learned to manage the chaos of 3 young children with different needs and personalities. His development from nervous first-time father to confident parent of 3 was remarkable to observe, particularly in his increased ease with the practical aspects of childcare and his growing ability to multitask effectively. Images of William simultaneously feeding Louis while helping Charlotte with a puzzle and listening to George's excited chatter about his day revealed his evolution into a truly hands-on father. William's commitment to creating lasting memories with his children became evident in his approach to family traditions and special occasions. His planning of elaborate birthday celebrations that prioritized fun over formality showed his understanding of what truly mattered to young children. The famous photographs from George's 4th birthday party, showing William enthusiastically participating in party games while wearing a paper crown, demonstrated his willingness to embrace silliness in service of his children's happiness. The most touching aspect of William's parenting journey has been his obvious effort to provide his children with the kind of unconditional love and engaged attention that his own mother had given him. His public discussions of mental health and emotional well-being, informed by his own experiences and his commitment to his children's emotional development, revealed the thoughtful approach he brings to modern parenting. His acknowledgement that being a parent is both the most rewarding and most challenging role he has ever undertaken resonated with parents everywhere who recognize their own experiences in his honest reflections. As William's children have grown, his role as their protector, guide, and companion has continued to evolve in ways that consistently surprise and delight those who observe the family dynamic. His ability to balance the formal requirements of royal life with the informal demands of active parenting has created a new model of royal fatherhood that feels both authentic and inspiring. The sight of William chasing his children through palace gardens, helping with homework, or simply listening attentively to their excited chatter represents a continuation of the warmth and humanity that has characterized his most endearing moments throughout his life. The legacy of these precious family moments extends far beyond their immediate charm, as William's approach to fatherhood is actively shaping the future of the monarchy itself. Through his commitment to hands-on parenting and his prioritization of his children's emotional well-being, he is ensuring that the next generation of royals will be raised with the same combination of duty and humanity that has made his own journey so compelling to follow. His evolution from the charming little boy who helped a classmate retrieve her fallen doll to the devoted father who creates magical moments for his own children represents a beautiful continuity of character that promises hope for the future of both his family and the institution they represent.